You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 329.
Welcome to part 5 of the Channel Island Way series, sponsored by visitguernsey.com and based upon the guide The Channel Island Way, published in 2011 by Coast Media. The book links together all the coastal walks around the islands of Alderney, Guernsey, Herm, Jersey and Sark to create a continual 110-mile route. We were invited by Visit Guernsey to walk sections of the guide and produce a series of podcasts about the journey, the islands and some of the people we met en route. You join us on Guernsey as we're about to head up the west coast and view the countless open beaches and coves as the coastline meanders its way north. A trip like this for us requires very little equipment, so we start off by describing the campsite and an idea of what we're carrying in our little Go-Light jam packs, which were never more than 8 kilos. Gold-accredited guide Jill Girard joins us once again in key locations and shares more of her incredible local knowledge.
People may be wondering what sort of equipment and how we're managing to do this trip and keep things fairly simple. And certainly by comparing ourselves to a lot of people in the campsite, well, I say a lot of people in the campsite, 6 of them, we are very humble and simple in our camping system. But as I may have mentioned before, we've got to cater for carrying everything, camping on some nights, and obviously accommodation, anything up to these luxury hotels. And everything in between for the few nights that we've been accommodated by Visit Guernsey and their associated partners. So very quickly then, we have our Terra Nova Solar 2 tent, which is our favourite tent. It gives us plenty of space for what we need to do, and about 2k's a good amount of space for weight. A couple of Neo Airs. I've got a full-length Neo Air this time. Rose has got a short. The standard sleeping bags that we normally take with us, the Rab sleeping bags, which have always been absolutely perfect for us. It's a Rab Quantum 400. I've got an older one, and you've got a
Neutrino 400.
From a cooking point of view, we anticipated perhaps cooking some hedge veg or using it for salads, if you were, and hopefully doing some fish or whatever else, all fairly elaborate, romantic stuff. So we brought the honey stove with a Trangia fitting, so we're running in meths predominantly. Haven't really had any need or thought to use solid fuel. A Evernew 1300 pan and the Evernew titanium frying pan. And we've also, the only food stuff we brought with us is pancake mix to use in the frying pan and
brew kit. Have to have a brew kit.
And the brew
cup
kit.
of tea.
But apart from that, we haven't brought anything else. So we just brought the basic brew kit and that, and then inside the pan goes the honey stove, the Trangia, a couple of sporks, the Swiss knife and fork, the flint and steel, and a couple of X mugs which are folded flat. All of which fit happily inside the pan, along with a J-cloth and a cleaning scratchy and a little bit of liquid soap. And that's our complete cook kit in a pot. The only external thing to that would be the frying pan, and I think we brought
2 X plates.
The X plate, that's right. And that's proved actually quite useful, sort of eating picnic al fresco style, hasn't it?
Yeah, the bottom of the X plates are really good for use as a chopping board. So they're a bit heavier than our old Oracaso set, but they're working out very well.
And that, looking around the tent, is pretty well our equipment. Everything else then is just like a change of clothes, or we bought more clothes than usual. The Embers Merino clothing has proved to be definitely a hit with us.
Yeah, I've got a T-shirt and a long-sleeved base layer, and then a cycle velo, which is like a mid-layer as well, which is all 3 pieces have been really useful.
Yeah, that's the thing about them. You feel they're bright, they're colourful, they definitely suit the weather conditions, but they feel quite smart.
Certainly do. And then I brought my Montane Terra stretch trousers, which always look smart and nice, lightweight, and also their shorts. Other than that, footwear, I brought Innovates Rocklights, an old pair, which have been really good on the trail, and some Keen Venice H2 sandals, which are very comfortable and have been great for just generally walking about.
These were recommended by Judy Armstrong and TGO, weren't they?
I saw it in the TGO, Judy Armstrong, to get women's review of sandals, trekking sandals, and ordered some off the net, and they're really comfortable.
And like Rose, I've got Innovate Terox, and my slip-on shoes for wandering around the campsite and general beach are ones that I don't know the name of, called Recolites. And they're great, just slip-ons, and I use them quite a lot during the summer, just for cooling the feet down and just doing this sort of thing, really. Trousers-wise, I've got my Terra pants, the zip of what they call them, converts, the Terra converts, which have proved a godsend, especially as the temperature increases, and another pair of sort of cut-off shorts.
In addition to that, we bought the usual safety stuff, which we always carry a first aid kit with us. We had it with us yesterday, and also a little bivvy bag, which actually I didn't take with us yesterday, but we have got one of those emergency bivvy sheets as well.
Yeah, maybe that sounds a little bit over the top for coastal walking, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Just coming back to the first aid kit, what people, and certainly what I didn't know, is that although Guernsey, Jersey are in the United Kingdom as such, you're not covered by our national health system. And you are advised to get insurance when you come out here, which we've actually failed to do ourselves. And there's a good reason for that, as a call-out fee for a doctor or a visit to accident emergency is in the region of £150 a pop. So it'd soon add up if you had a bit of a nasty accident. So take care and make sure you're covered on that score. And last but not least, of course, when you're walking, it's useful to have a wind shirt and certainly some simple waterproof gear. We've just bought jackets with us just in case, and a smock, the Montane light speeds. And we've needed them in places because of the cool sea breeze. But it's always worth having them. Very, very small, very, very light. And last but not least, and certainly something we're going to enjoy today, is we've brought some swimming costumes with us. So we're going to head off now down to the beach while we cruise up and down the west coast, find a nice spot, chill out for a bit, and have a dip in, hopefully, a very warm sea. It's a beautiful morning here on the campsite, Le Vaugras campsite, which is on the northwest coast of Guernsey. It is about 100 metres from the ring road, which you can't hear, and you step straight out onto the bus system. There's a bus sign which is printed on the road. That's how they work. And another 50 metres and you're in the sea. And there's plenty of bays around here to choose from, which are safe, clean and just lovely. So we just thought we'd spend a couple of minutes explaining where we've got to, how we're going to progress. Yesterday we got to the Tortervale area along the coastal walk, and it was a good day's walking. Again, the weather was lovely, but it also made it fairly warm for us. We are quick walkers, to be fair, and we discussed really that the Channel Island Way book is actually fairly realistic in saying 2 weeks to do all the islands. Of course, that includes Jersey as well as Guernsey and Alderney as well. But after all, it is a holiday break, and it would be a shame to miss some of the attractions and areas of interest that may appeal to different people as they walk. Certainly, I'm regretting not bringing a little fishing rod or any sort of fishing rod with me, because the fishing here looks absolutely fantastic, and there's so many places you can just sit and spend time on your own doing that, if that interests you, as well as lots of other activities. Le Vaugras campsite has been family owned, we understand, for over 30 years, and we hope to speak to the owners, who've got some fascinating stories about the area as well as their lives here. So we'll bring that in a bit later on.
The campsite's really good too. There's a pub sort of within staggering distance, and a supermarket not too much further on as well. We've actually got some bikes on hire from, where was it, Guernsey?
Guernsey Bike Hire.
Which are more than adequate to get about, and we thought this afternoon or today what we're going to do is actually take the bikes out and do this section of the coastline, because it's fairly flat and you're either on a cycle path or walking across the beach. So we thought we'd sort of potter down the coast on the bikes and perhaps find a nice bay to stop and have a bit of a break and a swim and a bit of a holiday with it as well.
Once you've finished the south coast, as Rose says, and you come onto the west coast, it is cycle path beach all the way right through, virtually around the north coast as well, in fact. before you start to get closer to St Peter's Port. So for anyone considering the walking and wanting to do the easy bit first, certainly consider doing the north and the west coast. And if you want the challenging bit first, there's obviously the east and the south coast to look at, but all of which offer a completely different viewpoints and an enjoyable experience. In fact, what I have noticed, I've got sunburn on the left-hand side of my shoulder, which is consistent with me walking with the sun around the east, south and west coast yesterday. So I've got burnt on one side and I'm okay on the other.
The campsite has about 4 or 5 fields. They're all pretty flat with sort of hedge shelters in between. It's very quiet, very family orientated. There's a very clean shower block, which takes 20p for the showers, washing up facilities, toilets, all the usual, but all very simple, no frills, so no pools or game machines or anything of that nature. There's a small shop they run which is open a few hours a day as well, which is helpful. And the couple who run it, or the family that run it, very friendly, lots of flowers around, got a beautiful cottage and a fantastic, pretty garden, so very nice spot.
You're listening to the award-winning UK Business Podcaster of the Year.
The home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
Podcasts are based solely around self-powered travel.
This is the Outdoor Station.
It's taken us an hour now to cycle down from Fougra campsite to Lihu Island, or the causeway that goes across to Lihu Island. The water's up today, and I think it's only open a certain time. But it's a glorious day, a typical quality June day, so John was saying. And the cycling, or the walking as the case may be if you're walking this, is just so easy. The road and the cycle paths are virtually as smooth as a baby's bottom, and such a pleasure to cycle around, and just so free and easy.
Yeah, the quality of the roads are really good. A couple of places you sort of lose the path, but there's usually the pavement or the road you can go on. It's not too difficult to spot the paths as you're going along.
Anyway, this is the part where Jill was telling us a lot more history about this particular causeway in the area. So I'm going to hand over to her while we sit back and enjoy the sunshine, and then we'll cycle back and see if we can find a relaxing beach where we can go for a swim.
We're on the west coast opposite and looking at Lihu Island, which is a tiny little island, mainly uninhabited, although there is now a house which is organised by a charitable trust, and you can actually rent the house to stay in.
That must be a luxurious feeling to sort of sit there and then just watch the water rise around.
That's right. Well, the only way across to the island is across a cobbled causeway, which is only exposed for 2 weeks of the month. The tide doesn't go out low enough most of the time.
Tell me about the construction of this causeway, because you were saying it's a beautiful piece of work.
It is. Well, during the 1800s, Guernsey had a hugely successful granite export industry. Lots and lots of famous monuments in London are built with Guernsey granite. So there was a lot of skill on the island, and the owner of the lease on the island was a farmer, but soon realised farming wasn't really going to be very successful, but realised the value of all the seaweed that's washed up around the island, and decided to start exporting it to the Guernsey farmers for fertiliser. But in order to get it across the causeway, across the channel at low tide, which was very rocky, he had to build this cobbled causeway. And fortunately for him, he did it at a time when all the skill would have been on the island. So it was quite difficult to build a cobbled causeway, as you can imagine, on a tidal seabed. So it would be covered twice a day by the tide. But it's an amazing feat of engineering, because to this day it was built in the 1830s, and to this day there's not one bit of repair or damage at all to it. So, and
you were saying that due to the export and the granite industry, they would have had engineers and masons from
Yeah.
all over the world almost.
Well, certainly a lot came from Cornwall, they came from France, they came from England, and local men as well. So there would have been a lot of skill available on the island at the time. Yeah, I mean, really the granite industry expanded when road building programmes in the UK, in England, expanded, and they needed cobblestones, and they found that the blue granite from the north of the island was one of the densest and most hard-wearing of all the British granites, so it was highly favoured. But lots of monuments, St Paul's, steps of St Paul's Cathedral, the nave of Westminster Abbey, London Bridge, London Embankment, all built with Guernsey granite.
Now, coming back to the seaweed, you said this is an important aspect even these days.
Yes, the whole site, the whole area is called a Ramsar site, which was an area internationally renowned for its sort of specialised habitats, and we've got lots here: a shingle bank, a salt marsh, a reed marsh, and this amazing intertidal zone between the two islands. And that marine biologists go absolutely bonkers when they see the sort of variety of species that they find here. And I think they've discovered something like 214 different types of seaweed alone between Guernsey and Leeward Island. Really rich habitat. And the birds, there's lots and lots of seabirds. Again, another really important migratory sort of stopping off point. So you'll see lots of birds here you wouldn't always expect to find in these habitats. So really, really rich little area.
And rich in history on every aspect again as well?
Yes, there's pre-Christian burial chamber, only a few minutes away from where we're standing. On the headland there's lots of German bunkers with German trenches that they've uncovered. And then, of course, the causeway. And on the island itself, there's a Benedictine priory that was built in the 12th century. So, and also on the north end of Leeward Island, they found Mesolithic remains. So you're dating back to 6000 BC, so 8,000 years ago. Evidence of habitation here. So. Yeah.
Well, if nothing else, it does inspire you to actually take your time and try and take it all in as you walk around this particular part.
Yeah. This again, it's a lovely. It's not a difficult walk to go across the island. It's sometimes a little bit seaweedy and slippery, but it's flat and really sort of quite remote when you get, especially to the sort of west end of Leeward Island. It's the most westerly part of the most westerly Channel Island. So next stop America. It's just a really nice feeling being out on the end there.
Now, on a hot day, if somebody feels like having a bit of a swim and cooling off a bit, are all the bays safe?
Yes, they're all. Yes, they are. One or two will have a notice up to explain that there might be strong currents at certain points of the tide, but I can only think of perhaps one place where that happens. Most of the beaches all around the coast are really safe. If they look safe, they are safe. There's no real hidden sort of tidal rips or sort of currents. If it looks safe, especially on the west coast here, the beaches are wide, sandy, and relatively sort of shallow and flat, so you don't get deep very quickly. So
and water quality is good as well.
Good.
If you pick any mussels or anything.
Yes, that's right. There's quite a lot of shellfish on the beach. And you can see the water's clear, you can see right to the bottom, and because of the tides, the beaches are sort of washed twice a day, so they feel really clean. The hedgerows in Guernsey, most of them were created about 400 years ago. Up until then, it was a feudal system of farming when the land was strip farmed and there were no hedge banks. But then they enclosed the land by creating these. Most of them originally were about 6 foot high, and they were earth and granite mixed together. And then they would plant on the top of each hedge either blackthorn or gorse, and this was cut triannularly to be used in the furze ovens. These were brick-lined ovens that sat alongside the fireplace in the old Guernsey farmhouses. They would dry the gorse, the blackthorn, burn it in the furze oven until the bricks had heated up, and then they'd use the residual heat to cook their food.
Obviously, these hedgerows are still the same as they have been for hundreds of years, but do you have to maintain them?
Oh yes, yeah. In fact, most of the hedge banks that they created then are still in existence. We haven't sort of knocked many down to create great big large fields. And it's every house owner and farm owner's responsibility to make sure that the hedge banks are cut back by the 15th of June and the 15th of September every year. And it's very sympathetically done. They wait till all the flowers have seeded, and then they're cut back so that the roads are wide enough again for the traffic. And they do similar on the cliff paths as well. They make sure that all the paths are really well maintained. They're very sympathetically maintained. They're cut by hand, and you'll often see just single foxglove left when they cut all around it because it hasn't actually seeded yet. So it's very sympathetically done.
The roads obviously are very narrow as a result, and lots of twists and turns. As you say, the speed limit's very low anyway. But I understand that if you get close to them, they're not soft.
No, no, they're earth and granite, so they may look soft, but don't get too close. No.
With over 1 million listeners worldwide, The Outdoors Station is the leading online audio resource for those into the great outdoors.
We're now standing on the west coast towards the north, outside the Roos Tower, and these towers were built in 1778 and 79 at the time when the French became allies with the Americans in the American War of Independence, and France being only 28 miles away, threateningly close, and we were on the opposite side. The French felt we needed defending against the French. So 15 of these towers were built around the coast. You see many more on the north and the west coast because it was flat, easy to invade. Very few on the south coast because the south coast cliffs were a natural defence. And these towers are distinctive. They're called loophole towers. They've got sort of little windows all around them, as opposed to the Martello towers. There's only 3 Martello towers on the island, and they haven't got any windows at all. And then, of course, there's all the German defence and observation towers around the coast.
There's definitely a different colour to the rock as we've come around the coast this way.
That's right. Well, we're now in the north of the island, which was really the majority of the sort of quarrying area, because the bluestone in the north is the most dense and hard-wearing of all the British granites, and it was the one that was highly favoured for all the road building programmes, the cobblestones. So the rocks are now sort of pale grey down to a dark bluey grey here. We've just come along the coast, sort of halfway at the west coast, where it's the beautiful, we call it pink, Cobo granite, which was highly favoured. It's a very pretty coloured stone, not quarried at all anymore, and just beautiful to look at, especially when the sun's out and the sky's blue and the sea's blue.
I noticed the campsite's not very far from here, and it's actually, we've passed a lot of very attractive beaches with all the sort of facilities. Is this one of the most sort of popular areas for people to enjoy beaches?
Most of the west coast is, the beaches are all lovely, and they've all got their own different little sort of characteristics. And one of the sort of joys of being on an island is choosing a beach according to the tide, the state of the tide, and also the wind direction. And whatever the weather, if it's really windy on one side of the island, it's quite a skill to work out, because not all the beaches, although they're on the west coast, don't all face west. They'll have north-facing shores and south-facing shores, so it's quite a little test to find sort of a nice sheltered spot if you want to stop for a picnic or something.
But I'm assuming purely just because of the number of the beaches, the amount of coastal area you have, it's very rare that any beach is particularly busy. That's
right. You could always find a quiet spot. Some of the beaches get busy near the facilities if they've got cafes and sort of different facilities for people, and easy car parking, you'll get busy around those areas, but you really don't need to go very far to find a quiet spot, and sometimes you can be the only person on one part of the beach.
You You will have heard us mention a few times in this series the numerous kiosks located in all the beauty spots dotted around Guernsey. Roos Kiosk is literally a stone's throw away from Roos Tower, and it's run by Philippa Ward.
There's about 17 of them. They're all owned by the states, and each tenant sort of rents them out with a concession. The lease is called a concession, which the states sort of then say that we have to be open for a certain many amount of days each year, and that we should, serve food and stuff depending on what we sort of tender to them what we're going to do, and they give you the rent.
So you before you actually take one on, you have to sort of submit your menus and ideas of how you're going to present it?
Yeah, sort of a business plan on what you're planning on selling, so you can get the Sunday trading and all the other bits of paper that go along with it.
So I presume then you struggle for holidays yourself?
No, that's what January and February is for.
You mean it actually goes cold here in January, February, does it?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, right, okay. So how long does each sort of lease or licence run for?
As long as you want. Once you've got the tenancy, you can keep it going as long as you want.
And is there a sort of a long waiting list for this sort of thing?
There's not really a waiting list. I think they're snapped up pretty quick when they come available. But because each one's at a different point on the island, they're all different, and you wouldn't necessarily want one over another. So when they come available, you sort of look at them and see whether you want them or not.
All right, and see if you can put your own sort of spin or whatever on the actual destination.
Yeah, exactly. They've all got different points. Some are on the cliffs, and some are down on the beach, and some are in the sand dunes, and they're all different locations, different sizes, facing different directions for the wind. So yeah, they're all very, very unique.
And have they all got the same facilities inside, or are they all slightly different?
No, they're all different. Some are set up with kitchens, some are very small and just a few freezers and a couple of fridges. They're all different.
Well, you were recommended to us by a guide that said that you serve the best crêpe sandwiches on the island, and I also, since we've been here on many occasions, I noticed you do a whole range of homemade cakes as well.
Yeah, lots of cakes, all made in the morning. Yeah.
And do you get a steady trade all through the day?
Yeah, definitely. There's even when it's raining, they come down for cakes and crab sandwiches and sit in the car and watch the water disappear.
Well, that's got to be good. So how long have you actually been here yourself?
It's my second year. Yeah.
Has trade built, changed, grown, whatever, over the years?
I don't know. The weather's not been so good this month, but yeah, it's definitely growing. I've definitely got some regulars that come down on a regular basis and sort of have the same thing every time. So yeah, it's keeps me busy, that's for sure.
Your menu is obviously fairly diverse, and your cakes, as my wife points out, are quite interesting, as well as your sandwiches. So where did you get your ideas for all this sort of catering?
Just from travelling, really. I've kind of left the island for about 12 years and sort of worked in different restaurants and hotels and stuff, and sort of picked up different ideas along the way. Yeah.
And which one's the most popular of the exotic range of cakes here?
The chocolate and beetroot cake, yeah, that goes pretty quick.
Chocolate and beetroot, it's not two tastes that you'd actually associate.
It's good, it's nice and sticky and sweet, just like chocolate should be.
The environment here, how much of it is your responsibility? How far does your sort of boundary go to?
Just the tiled area, the quarry stones.
So all the plants and the decorations around it, and the tables and chairs are all yours?
Yeah.
And is it fairly easy sort of business to run? You don't get sort of any hassles during the summer and peak season? Any sort of, I don't know, kids or whatever?
No sort of hassles from outside. Busy, but otherwise it's all good. Yeah.
And you were saying that you're open just sort of mainly daytime hours, but presumably during the summer season you must open longer hours or whatever. Yeah,
from the 7th of July I'm going to open till about 8:30 in the evening for the school holidays and see how that goes for the first time this year. So there's always lots of people down swimming on the pier, especially in the high tide, so we'll see how that works.
And finally, do you not, I mean, you've got a wonderful view here, leaning on the counter, looking out the front there, looking out towards the sea and the white sand, and obviously the visitors coming and going. Do you ever regret being behind the counter and not out there paddling in the water?
No, not at all. I got my little blackboard.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, Barry, gone for a swim.
So when it gets too much, the window gets closed and I go off for a swim.
All right, and the customers are quite happy?
They sort of stand on the bank there looking to see where I am and whether I'll be back in sort of a couple of minutes or 5 minutes.
You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
If you're coming here, it's perhaps nice to read a little bit about Guernsey before you come, but books like, at the moment, we're getting a lot of tourists coming from quite a long way away, from Australia, America, because a book called the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, I know it's a mouthful, it is top of their bestsellers list, and it's a novel written about the Guernsey occupation during the Second World War. It's a love story. It was written by an American, and sadly she died before the book was published, but it's been a great success and is a charming book to give you some insight perhaps into Guernsey life during the occupation, which is of interest to a lot of people. But Victor Hugo was here. He came in the 1850s, and he was exiled in Guernsey from France because he disagreed with the politics in France at the time and came to escape, but stayed far longer than he needed to. The politics in France changed, but he loved being in Guernsey. He was a great walker and a great swimmer, and Guernsey was an inspiration to him. He completed Les Miserables while he was here. He wrote a lovely book called Toilers of the Sea, which is all based in Guernsey. It's a little romantic novel. But his descriptions of the cliffs and the coast and life in Guernsey at the time were fabulous. Renoir popped here in the 1880s, not for very long, but he did some famous work here, again inspired by the scenery and the light and the atmosphere in Guernsey.
My thanks to everyone involved in this episode and to the sponsor of the Channel Island Way series, visitguernsey.com. More information about the Channel Islands can of course be found on the website, should this series inspire you to try somewhere different for a long or short break. Our guide, The Channel Island Way, is published by Channel Island map specialists Coast Media and written by Blue Badge guide Arthur Lamy. The book is available from amazon.co.uk, priced at $9.95, and in visitor centres and book retailers throughout the islands. Join us next time on our final episode as we learn about the life of a young Guernsey evacuee during the Second World War. We travel to and walk around Alderney and then finish our trip by dipping our toes into the water with some sea kayaking.
This sponsored programme has been brought to you by The Outdoor Station, the exciting new way to see and hear free information about the outdoors world. Visit our website, theoutdoorstation.co.uk, for more information.